Well, it's June the 8th. Welcome to another session of Lunch and Learn. We're so fortunate to have Tony Woodard, who's the Chief Inspector for the state for the Mechanical Division of Arkansas Labor and Licensing. Tony, welcome to the program.
Glad to be with you, Tom.
Today we're going to be talking about, especially with emphasis on retrofits and installation, just getting back to some basics, which, Tony is fixing to get really, really busy, and these guys are going to be so busy they don't have a chance to really think about stuff. They're just having to kind of do the best they can.
Yep. They plug and
So,
play and move on.
yeah, absolutely. All right. One of the things that's important, and I know a lot of guys don't do it, but almost everybody does, fortunately, but you got to remember that you've got to recover the refrigerant that's in the system you got, and you can't recover from one customer and use it on the next customer.
No. There's new guidelines on your EPA 608. And I was fortunate enough to sit through Larry Clark's. It was a good program. He helped get folks trained, and there are new requirements from 1994 when we did it from the beginning. But yeah, that's that's regulated by EPA, not necessarily us, but it's still the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's like purging the system when you put your solder torch on it, do the right thing. Same
Yeah.
thing with this, recover it. Don't just bleed it into the air. And once you recover, you can't reuse it.
And one of the things we might mention is that if you know it up front, if you've got a system that uses more than 5 pounds of refrigerant but less than 50, you've got to keep records of what you've done for 3 years. And there's the list of things that you need to do. And again, it's not that big of a deal, except it's just one more little piece of paperwork, and none of us like doing paperwork. All right, clearances from grade, Tony.
All right, clearances from grade. So we understand, and I strongly advise any contractor once they set their equipment on trim out, take photos. Just put it in your portfolio. Have your installers take the photo with their phone and to prove because you guys will set that on your solid pad, and then the landscape folks will come in, and 6 inches later they're up into your condenser. They
Yeah.
leveled out dirt and blew the sod on it. That's not on the mechanical guy, but that does happen, unfortunately. We see it when we get involved with some complaints sometimes on that. But
And it's got to be on, the code says either level concrete or other approved material.
yes, there's so many new polymers out there, a lot of hard non concrete pads that are required. But I do strongly recommend all installers start paying attention to your new INOs. You're going to start seeing on the heat pump condensers, they're requiring them to be sitting on stands on the solid pad. They will tell you whether they're 3 or 4 inch pump up. Ream has their very own that they sell with them. I think Train does too, but start paying attention to that because we're starting to see it in the instructions that not only do they want it on that solid pad, then they want you to lift it up, especially the heat pumps for the defrost mode.
Wow, that's adds a whole new realm to what we're supposed to do now.
Yep.
Here's an example that we've used before of what sometimes it'd be easy to get into. And if you was in a hurry, in a bind to get these people up and going because they was burning up, it'd be easy just to jerk that out and throw in another one right there on that concrete.
Oh, yes. And we see it. That's where it was and go back. It's just, you got to understand your responsibility. Once you remove that piece of equipment and bring it back, then you've got all your other codes. You've got to watch out for your stormwater. You got to watch out for your clearances, your electrical. Get it away from that building, especially so just the unit can breathe alone. And I love the
Mm.
pictures in the instructions. They'll have a little picture of the condenser with a line drawn 12 inches this way, 8 inches, so forth, and show you need to have it this far from anything. So
Hmm.
just pay attention to that. Don't leave them in the plastic. Make sure you open
Exactly.
it up.
Well, got one here on solid ground.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's an ant heaven right there, isn't it? They love to come in there and go after that contactor. That's really bad though. That's erosion going to happen quick, and uh, for some reason it'll start eating up at the bottom of that evaporator. Come
Mm.
up, it'll get
And
to it.
here's an example of what you were talking about,
Or
that you
condenser. I'm
put your
sorry.
pad down and then the landscaper comes along behind you.
Yes, exactly. That's a little close to the wall, but yes, you can see where they were. They built it up, and then they came back in there and laid that sod up on there, and it looks like the contractor did the best he could to get high. But we always understand that's on the landscaper that does that as well, though.
Mhm. All right. Now here's an example. of multiple units, and the code in 304.1.2 says that these condensing units need to be marked indicating which portion of the building that is serving.
Yes. So the one on the right could be apartments further down the line to your left or right.
Mm-hmm.
Or if some of the townhouses, this might be a scenario where they're trying to run all the line sets, go up and over, and you might have apartment facing the front of the street. If that's the case, those would have to be identified over there. You could either identify the breaker box, disconnect box, and put like a 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever and do that. But in the one to the left is obviously a multifamily dwelling that's sitting on the roof, and now most of these have their own independent breaker, they're on an independent meter. It's not like a single family dwelling. So you clearly have to identify where's this going? Is this apartment 104? Is this apartment 106? And so forth like that. Yes, that is a requirement.
How much space needs to be between those condensers?
Well, on that docking right there, I know for a fact that where they're facing there, they're real close. There's a 12-inch requirement. Now, so when you see 12-inch requirement, that doesn't mean 12-inch for this one. That means 12 inches and 12 inches. So if one needs 12 inches, that you're not gaining it by being 12 inches apart. You'd be 24 inches at that point.
Is
You
that
follow
right?
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do exactly.
Yeah. So that's a little tight.
Yeah, just a little. All right. All right. Here we go. Arkansas Mechanical Code 306.1. It starts talking about access for maintenance and a placement.
Yes, goes back to, I believe, like you said, 2020, our very first lunch and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the chart out of the NEC that actually talks about your voltage. If I could just get the contractors to get in their head, do not set a condenser any closer than 40 inches because they're thinking 3 foot. Well, the disconnect sticks out some. The deal, just do not set it any closer to that wall. If you set that and go, well, I'm not doing the wiring, the electrician's doing the wiring. If you have no idea where he's going to come, if he winds up putting it right behind your unit, if you don't have that 40 inches out now, guess what? You're going to wind up having to move it. If you have that distance and the contractor on the electrical side puts that disconnect back there, you should be fine as long as we don't get into a trip hazard. But
Tony, here we're talking about having that 3 feet from the wall there, from like you said, the disconnect boxes.
Yep.
I guess I'm stuttering here trying to think about the number of places I've seen that don't have 3 feet. They're more likely to have 12 inches.
You're not stuttering. You're telling what's happening. It's missed. This is missed by fire marshals, city inspectors. It's missed. Hell, we've missed it. Our department's missed it. It's missed. But yeah, it's something we've got to start paying closer attention to get more distance out away from those structures. And then when we go to multifamily, now we're dealing with lot lines and restrictions and things like that. So we got to start doing better on the beginning of knowing how to do this. And I'll mention here in a minute about the A2L, which I'm going to talk about. There's a difference with what we got to do with A2L.
Huh. I guess the thing I'm thinking about is that this isn't put out there to say, okay, we're going to try to catch people who don't do the 36. It's to inform people that, man, this is what you need to do, and this is why you need to do it. And if you don't do it, man, it's going to cost you so much money if you have to go back in there and make it right.
Right. You don't want to do a callback. It's all about the life safety of the trip hazard of grounding someone between them and the deal and sometimes when we talk about in a window, it's an egress element. All bedrooms are your egressable window. If the fire is on the area of egress out the door, that's why your window has to be operable. You can't hem them in. And we had over 170 units moved away from the window in apartments last year alone because they were sitting right up against the window. Yes, that got very pricey on a few contractors.
Ooh, mercy, hurts me just to think about it. Now, here's an example.
There's an example that's an egressable window. They have their 3 feet. And in this scenario, you actually have the line sets going in the right direction away from the electrical. But in the A2Ls that we're going to now, you won't be able to bunch all those line sets in one stud.
There.
And this was allowed with 410A. But the total accumulation of refrigerant, your standard 2-ton unit comes with about 4.9, depending on 4.9 to 6 pounds of refrigerant on a 15-foot run. Now, when you start running those long line sets, you're going to be well exceeding that. Well, R32 is its single component, and it has to supposedly have 1,000 cubic foot of breathing or bleeding area, they call it, in ASHRAE 15. If you develop a leak, that has to be able to dissipate with that much cubic feet before it's an efficient. Now, think about that. Now, if you take the aggregate and you're putting 3 line sets in there, you got to add all those up. And what that is, that's a potential for a nail or something to go. We're going to separate those to stop a potential for a leak.
So again, from this, the only thing we've got to remember now that everybody's doing A2Ls is that when you go in the wall and run up to the attic, if that's where the air handler is, you've got to put 1 line set per stud cavity.
Correct. That's the simple solution. Yes, sir.
I got you. All right. Is this a trip hazard?
Yes, sir. That one is not a good one there. In this scenario, probably the electrical will wind up having to go far left of these windows over here or to the other side. But, you know, it's out of sight, out of mind. They stub out. Electricians are in a hurry. Everybody else is in a hurry on rough end. They stub it out. And I blame a lot of superintendents at job sites on this. And I do work with superintendents. Look, pay attention to this. Pay attention to what's about to take place. This is before your outside sheeting or cladding or your party boards on there. This is where your window's going to go. Pay attention. If this is where you're going to pour your concrete pad, we got an issue here because you're trying to pile everything into that 1 gallon bucket right there.
You know, I wish, and I know sometimes in commercial applications, you'll have a meeting of all the trades and everybody's talking about what they need to do. But I wish that even residentially, that the builder would call his trades together and say, now, boys, what are y'all finding? What can we do here to make sure it goes right?
That they do. You're right. They do it on the commercial jobs. They all gather up at the job trailer and have them. That'd be an excellent idea for residential. Start getting in there.
Now, here's something. It's a NFPA 90A where it talks about access to the equipment.
Yeah. And there's actually a code in our regular mechanical code that contractors have to abide by. It's in Chapter 1, administrative, and a lot of them are starting to learn that they seem to think they're not responsible for providing access. All contractors are responsible for every tool necessary, and a ladder is deemed under that necessary, providing access as part of the tool. If you call for an inspection, and an inspector shows up and there's no way to get to the attic, and you go, oh, that's on the contractor to put the step. No, it's not. You got to ensure if the building contractor is going to put it, you make sure they have this pull down ladder in place before you call for your inspection. Because I've started this, we have built this back in the mechanical inspector license. We've been doing it weekly, getting everybody going, and they are being instructed by our department. You show up on a job site, do not move forward with inspection if you have no way of getting up there. There's been too many people passing things without being able to get up there and see. They go, well, it looked good from where I was. There's a lot you missed that way. Okay, I think Tom's talking about, I can't hear Tom, so I'm going to I know he's through talking. I think he's talking about the 24 required platform or solid walkway you got to have there. That is correct. And then you got your imaginary scenario where you have a 22 inches high and so forth. But that picture right there Tom's pulled up is exactly what you're looking for. But always remember the code states you must have a 20 by 30 opening or largest for the largest piece of equipment. A lot of these pull down stairwells, they're nowhere meeting that. So some of this equipment, sometimes it's kind of iffy. You get it up there and then pull your pull down in there and it's not quite meeting the access requirement for removing and replacing. It is a requirement, retrofit as well. We do have to purchase permits to ensure all of our equipment is inspected properly for the safety of it, flue venting, gas piping, so forth. All that's got to be permitted. Please make sure when you're in a permitted area, you do go purchase your permit so the unit will be inspected and looked at to make sure it meets all the life safety aspects.
As always, we appreciate Tony taking his time to help our folks understand the health and the safety issues of our industry. We also want to remember to recognize the Arkansas Department of Labor and Licensing for their allowing Tony and their inspectors to be involved in the Lunch and Learn programs. Education is the best form of regulation. Every webinar is another job times the number of listeners that's done correctly. If you have any questions, got any comments about the program or questions about what's going on, be sure to call 501-682-9201. One more time, 501-682-9201. That is your door to get in with the right person to answer your questions. The next Lunch and Learn, July the 13th. We look forward to visiting with you then.